a food person, we have to understand the fact that foodborne illnesses mostly are caused through carelessness in handling food and in preparation of food. Because most of the activities that cause or bring about foodborne illnesses could mostly be prevented through the methods and through the application of simple things that we are going to be talking about as we go along. And most foodborne illnesses, mostly they will come as flu symptoms. So you'll find it difficult to really ascertain that they are from food consumption. So some of these illnesses, they come with symptoms such as vomiting, nausea, abdominal cramp, diarrhea, headache, and in some rare occasions, you have death. Now, moving on, we want to look at the food safety preamble. Why do we need to really talk about this, the preamble to food safety? Food safety in definition, to me as a layman in the business, could be seen as all measures taken to protect the consumers from ill health through food consumed. That is, we want to look at the whole of the food chain from the farm down to the table of the final consumers. Invariably, we're looking at when these farm produce are taken from the farm, how are they stored? Do we extend our service to the farmers? Do we extend our service as food safety persons to the suppliers of these items when they bring them to our restaurant? We should care about the pesticides being used on some of these materials we are receiving, because invariably they are going to impact on the health and the well-being of our customers. And that is what we need to safeguard. It's part of our responsibility to safeguard the health and well-being of our customers. Then we also check when we are receiving some of these items. After receiving, the storage is also checked. And we should also be particular about storage when we receive these items. They should be stored immediately after receiving, especially for the cold chain items, because they are quite perishable. We'll get to look at all of that in upcoming slides. So we have to quickly also look at the mindset of today's consumers, because today's consumers are constantly migrating from one geopolitical location to another because of economic reasons, because of social reasons. They want to travel from one place to another. So because of this, there will be demand for variant and exotic meals. Then there will be change in eating habits too. And most of the time, they would prefer readily available foods. And for us to give them what they want or what they expect, then this service relationship is quite important. We need to understand that there are basic expectations by these customers at their moment of truth from the service end, that is from our own end. We call them charms. And basically, charms is all about cleanliness, hospitality, accuracy, maintenance, product quality, and speed with service. For the cleanliness, these are the basic expectations of our customers, like we said. That's slide 3 now that we're still talking about. That is food safety preamble. Now, moving on from there, having known the minimum expectations of our customers, but out of all of this, we will be looking at about 3 of them, which is cleanliness, maintenance, and product quality. They are key to the 5 keys to safer foods. Now, let us try to understand who a customer is. A customer is defined as anybody or anyone with whom we want to have a mutually beneficial relationship. That's slide 4 now. Customer. A new slide. A customer is anyone with whom you want to have a mutually beneficial relationship. And now, when you talk about relationship, it's all about the total engagement of the customers, which is far better and far beyond service. The relationship is far beyond service because you should get to know your customer's preference. You should get to know the temperament of your customers. And that is how you can go in managing them, in creating relationship with them. And these days, mostly we talk about win-win relationship. It's not win-lose because the customers are basically the reasons for our business. They are not interruptions in our business. They are why we are in business. And we should understand the fact that they are the ones paying our bills. They are the ones paying the ones paying the salary of our workers. So we must go the extra mile in satisfying them. We have to also apply service recovery in case there are faults as we go along the line. Then we have to maintain internal marketing. Fine, we may have marketing department that does the marketing, that does the door-to-door activities, that does the town storming and what have you, the leafleting and various marketing options that you've got. But internal marketing is all about ourselves in the food facility. Hello? It's all about ourselves.
Hello?
Hello? Yeah.
Yeah, you can go on. You can go on.
Okay. I was actually talking about the customer relationship, that it goes far beyond just service, that it entails the total engagement of our customers far beyond the service. The customers these days, they expect us to go the extra mile, being customer maniac at all angles to ensure we deliver. They want to have customized service, and they would also want to see that yes, there is service recovery when we commit errors on part of serving them. So we need to listen to them. We need to apologize. We need to solve their problem and invariably thank them for bringing issues to our notice. Then internal marketing activities are also expected to be done because that is what is going to hold the customers when the marketers go out to canvas for sales when they go out to canvas for markets, when they do door-to-door marketing services, when they do road shows and town storming. So the internal marketing is all about the 5 keys to savor food. Now, the food safety, new normal. Food safety, the new normal. And that's what we want to talk about now. There is their need for everybody in the food chain to be realigned to this new reality, because recently the International Food Information Council shows that consumers are bothered more than ever before on food safety issues. And some of these safety issues they are concerned about include the chemicals in food, the carcinogenic materials, foodborne illnesses, which is the major of what we are talking about here now, the pesticides, and most lately COVID-19. But most of the affairs on COVID-19 has been laid to rest because the virus actually need a living host to be able to be passed on. But having said that, adequate caution or precaution must be taken so that our customers are not endangered, or we passing any of this to them unknowingly or knowingly. So there is need for all the regulators, the inspectors, the food facility owners, the food managers, and every individual to be aligned, even the professional, the unprofessional food handlers, the housewives, the children, the vendors, and even the vulnerables, the old people, the kids, the pregnant women, the travelers. These are in the category of the vulnerable people because they are quite being they are quite easily exposed to foodborne illnesses. So everybody has to be realigned to this to get the new reality that we must all be involved. So the food safety, the global call, as we said from the beginning, that 5 keys to food safety, it's all about the World Health Organization coming to reality that people are more bothered or more worried than ever before, and they have a responsibility to ensure the public health safety. So they came up with this initiative of 5 keys to safer food. So there is also advocacy from Food and Agricultural Organization, the United Nations, and they've empowered Nigeria and other nations to be able to do this through the Ministry of Health to implement and enforce food safety practices across the industry. So the other needs for food safety alignment, why do we need to also be involved? The reason, number one, should be commitment to safeguard public health, which we've been talking about. The second thing is to align with the national and international policies on food safety across the world. Then to be free of the various consequences that comes with unsafe food handling practices. For example, illnesses, death, litigation, fines, abatement, business closure in some cases. There could be imprisonment. A lot of medical expenses could be incurred, brand reputation loss, and so forth. These are some of the reasons we must ensure that we don't get into this net of unsafe food. Then we want to ensure customer satisfaction and influence their decision to return. Now, back to the food safety keys. What are they? The first one is you keep clean, you do thorough cooking, you separate your foods. The raw and the cooked foods must not be stored together. They must never be stored together. You keep food at safe temperatures. Use safe raw materials and water. Now, in keeping cleanliness now, you have 3 levels of cleanliness. You have personal cleanliness, you have production facility cleanliness, and you have the food cleanliness itself. So it is a moral responsibility of every food handler to ensure that food is delivered safe, wholesome, and nutritious as expected. So invariably, the person starts with personal hygiene and cleanliness. You preserve your health as a food handler. And it is said that how you want to be addressed is the way you are dressed. It has to do with your grooming because your customers will have perception about your food once they sight you. So you have to be clean. You take simple things like taking your daily bath, you know, you cut your fingernails, you don't maintain long nails, you groom your hair, you tuck them in using hairnet and hair ties while you are on production floor. You you wash your hands as often as possible using antibacterial soap, using sanitizers to ensure you get rid of most of these pathogens that could be transferred from contaminated surfaces to uncontaminated regions or from food to working surfaces or from working surfaces to food, vice versa. So you have to ensure you do personal hygiene so that most of these pathogens, the viruses, the bacteria that are found on the body and food are completely locked out. That's part of what we should deliver. Then cleaning of the facility, the food facility, the kitchen, the production area. You have to dislodge dirt as much as possible using heat, hot water. You use chemicals, sanitizer, soaps, detergents. You do physical scrubbing, washing, scraping. For effective cleaning, you have to do pre-cleaning planning. You have to get the materials for cleaning and you have to get the schedule ready. Then you do your cleaning, but you also have to have a schedule, like I said, of what to clean, when to clean, where to clean, how to clean, and who should be clean with what is very, very key because some of the places in your food facility are cleaned daily, some will be done weekly, while some other ones are done monthly. But basically, when your team are not really working, they should be on training or they should be cleaning. That is very key in food production area of food production service. Now you need to step up your cleaning when it comes to food facility cleaning. You have to do a little more above that, and it's called sanitizing. Because when you do cleaning, you are removing the physical dirt from the surfaces or from a particular material you are cleaning, you are dislodging the dirt and the debris and what have you on them. But you have to sanitize using chemicals, sanitizers that are approved by the regulatory agencies, by the local authorities, and you have to mix them at the appropriate ratio for you to get them effective. What they do basically is to reduce the loads of these microorganisms, the pathogens that are disease-causing organisms, to bearable, minimal amounts that will not cause harm to you or to the public. And that's the essence of sanitizing, and it's part of cleaning. So disinfecting is also done, and that has to do with non-food contact surfaces, while sanitizing is for food contact surfaces. Now we're on food handling. We want to talk about water. Water, because basically in food production, you have your, your raw materials, and your raw material has to do with food. And the other raw material, which is basic, which is major, is water. It is said that about 0.3% of water available globally is potable or is readily available for use. The total of more than 99% is either unusable or unavailable. Is either unusable or unavailable. So in that wise, you have to use water wisely. For your water to be potable, that is to be fit for human consumption, certain things are required of them. The physical, the chemical, the microbial standards as drawn out by the local authorities, for example, the Nigerian water standards through various agencies have been followed. Same goes for the World Health Organization standards, but locally, we are expected to follow the Nigerian water standards. And in this, you need to check the physical, the chemical, and the microbial standards of your water. Then you need to treat too for your water to be potable. And in this, you are checking the color, the taste, the odor, the microbes, the pH of the water, the chemicals. For example, you should understand that for nitrites and nitrates to be present in your water, it could indicate that there is fecal contamination or sewage contamination, and it could stimulate microbial growth. And invariably, you have to treat using chlorine, for example, using ultraviolet facility to treat. If your water is having iron, for example, you do aeration. You do aeration of your water so that you'll be able to trap the iron and get rid of them through your micron filters. So that is water for water to be potable, because you need this water for production largely. You can't do without water. Your team will take water. So your water must be potable. And it's also a standard when the regulatory agencies come around. They will ask for your water analysis, your water certificate of analysis. So you tender to them, and we have some of these agencies that take care of that. We have a lot of private institutions, public institutions too, laboratories doing that. So you need to get in touch with them to ensure your water is safe and fit for consumption. So having said that, the storage of your food in receiving your food materials, you have to ensure that your material is wholesome, is free of bruises, is received with minimal blemish or no blemish at all. For the fish and the meat products, they should be fresh, they should be non-slimy, they should smell fresh, and they should look fresh. For example, your meat will have to be marbled in appearance. It has to have that red color, and it must smell fresh before receiving. You could have in cases that they are not okay. You could have green spots, you could have discoloration, and at that point you reject the product. So mostly when you are receiving, you have to reject dented canned items, any item with leakage, any item that is rusty if it's canned, anyone with missing label, and any product with mold or insect damage, you also have to reject. If you also see droppings, like the rat droppings, like gecko droppings, is an indication of contamination. So you have to reject. So all cold stored items must be kept away immediately, but you have to label them, put in the date you have received them, you put the time of receipt and your initials with the product's name. Then you have to practice what is called FEFO, first expired, first out. A lot of people will say first in, first out, but first expired, first out is far better. Then we look at storage failure. You don't you have to follow certain rules when you are storing, whether your cold store or dry items. 2-6 rules you do on shelf, 2 inches away from the wall and 6 inches above the floor. Number one, you want to ensure there is air ventilation around your food. Then you want to ensure that your food is not coming in contact directly with either your wall or the floor, because that will cause contamination. So it's very key. Then you don't store cooked with raw items, whether in your chiller, your freezer, or your ambient store. You have to ensure separation of materials, and you don't keep chemicals with your items or your packaging materials. Now, the other rule is on cooking and temperature control. When you cook, especially when you cook in advance, you have to be careful as much as possible. You have to cook in batches, and that's why as a food facility manager, you should have your projection, your planning. You have to put a lot of things into consideration. You have to ensure that you are cooking as per requirements. You have to look at your product mix. What do you sell the more? What do you sell less of? So this will guide you. Do you have any activity around your food production facility that requires you to cook more or to produce more, so that you don't get to waste food, you don't get to have contamination on your food? So you cook in batches, you take caution to ensure you don't have any foodborne illnesses through your cooking. Then you have to follow the temperature rules. For example, if you are displaying food on your display counter, or what you call bain marie, you have to constantly check the temperature. Yes, the temperature of your product should not fall to a temperature called danger zone, because it's not accepted, it's not welcome in any form that your temperature should fall into danger zone. It is a temperature where most of the pathogens, the disease causing organisms, where they thrive mostly. So, and this temperature is usually from 5 to 60 degrees C. So as much as possible, you have to ensure temperature doesn't into this range called danger zone. So for your cold items, refrigerated items, it has to be in a temperature range of 1 to 4 degrees C. For the cooked items, it has to be above 60 degrees C. Then for the frozen items, it has to be in a temperature range of -18 to -23. So at intervals, when you cook, you check the internal temperature of your product. For example, your meat or your beef, as the case may be, you check for doneness. The temperature should be well above 80 degrees C. And once the temperature falls to 60, you have to discard. Even if it's chicken, you have to discard. Then you must never mix leftover items with fresh batch of food. Then when you have your food in your holding cabinet, you don't reheat more than once. And the other rule we should be looking at is when you are running cold items, for example, like your salad, you have to ensure you don't do it at room temperature. You have to do it in a chilling temperature, which is very, very key to your production. And same goes to your marination. If you are marinating, you have to marinate at a controlled temperature. If at all you are going to be using water, If you are doing water thawing, you must do it under constantly running or flowing water, and the water must flow. It must not be retained within your zinc. That is very, very key. And it should be noted that your freezing will not eliminate microorganisms, it's going to inactivate them. So once you bring them out, you have to use all the items or the frozen items immediately. You have to cook, you have to, you know, make them available for consumption as soon as you bring them out, because the microorganisms will be inactivated once you bring them out and the ice is melting. Therefore, the cooked items, you have to ensure that as soon as you have to ensure that once you want to cool them down, they have to run through a very fast period of cooling time, so that the the unwanted temperature does not set in. That is 5 to 60 degrees C, which is danger zone. You disallow that as much as possible. Now, it's important we talk about the hand wash, because it is now realized that a lot of times most of these microbes, the pathogens, the viruses and the bacteria, they are passed mostly through the hands, and the hands are the most viable vehicles for them to be transferred from one place to another, from one food to the other. And mostly some of these pathogens are found on food items like meats, like vegetables, like fruits, like even ice that you use in cooling or drinking. Most of these pathogens are found on them, and that's why you need to be careful. And mostly you use your hand to process some of these food items. So, and some of these pathogens could be passed from person to person, from animal to person, from equipment to person. So the essence for you to constantly do your hand wash, constantly have to do constantly need to sanitize from time to time your equipment, your work surface, and your utensils. So your hand wash, you use warm water, lukewarm water, so to say. You use antibacterial soap. If available, you use nail brush, and you don't keep long nails like we said. You rinse repeatedly. Then you use your hand towel, disposable hand towel, to dry your hand, and you use the same disposable towel to press your hand sanitizer bottle or machine, as the case may be. And that's what you should do, because if you use your hand, it means you are recontaminating the hands. And there are some basic times where you have to do your hand wash as a must: after eating, after cleaning jobs, after handling cash, after putting your finger in any part of your body. And you don't do hand wash and you still go back to rub your apron, your PPE with the same hand. You are going to recontaminate the hand, and you are going to pass that contamination to the food you are preparing or you have prepared. So it's important we do this so that we get rid of this. Then there's no way we'll talk about the 5 keys to save food without talking about the people. Like we said the other time, that cleaning is on 3 levels. You have personal cleanliness, you have kitchen cleanliness, and you have food cleanliness. People are the major in food processing, and there's no way you can deliver on food processing without the people. So people should understand some basic things. Personal grooming, and that's all about cleanliness. We mentioned it the other time. The fingernails have to be kept short and clean. No wearing of nail polish, no false nails, no use of earrings, jewelries, especially in production area, except you are a front of house person. So you maintain clean body, hair, hands, even up to the undies. You use light deodorant, but any deodorant or scent that will, mostly food items will absorb some of this, so you have to be careful in using them. You don't use cosmetics so that when you are sweating it doesn't get into the food. But if you are in front of house, you can do that moderately. So You wear your hat and your net at all times so that your food doesn't fall, your air doesn't fall into food. No chewing of gum and eating in the kitchen. The reason, part of the reason we'll get to see, because rodents and pests, they will be attracted to that. And aside that is an unclean and unhealthy practice. So your personal health too should be taken seriously. If you see any symptoms like sore throat, fever, diarrhea, vomiting, headache, dizziness, cold, you have to report to your manager, right? And who is supposed to escalate and excuse you if need be for medical attention as required. So the unwanted visitors, we have to talk about them. You have rodents and pests, like we mentioned. You have to delete their source of water. You have to delete their source of food. You have to delete their shelter or where they get warmth. Because if you continue to provide that for them over a period, you are going to be creating health hazard, and that is unwanted. And invariably, they get to humans, and you are going to have an unsafe and hygienic environment, which is not allowed in the food service business. So, having said that, for this to be successful, the 5 keys to be properly applied and to be successful, there is everyday need for, like I said, everybody to be engaged, for all actors to be involved. And in that, you need commitment, you need training, you need orientation, you need to monitor the process and improve the process as the case may be. And that will guarantee the success of the 5 keys application to safer food. And invariably, you are going to have a very cordial relationship with with your customers as expected. So some of the tools that you use in food safety, let's quickly look at them. We have food safety records, because you can't just say you're doing it when you don't have the records. For example, your temperature records will tell the would-be visitors or the inspectors, or even in case there is food poisoning, for example, you have your customer complaining and is emphasizing that, oh, it's from your facility. When you don't have your temperature records, there is no backup for you, because it's going to be assumed that you are not practicing safe hygiene as expected. So your training records, your cleaning records, your temperature records must be in place. Your policies must also be in place. For example, as simple as hand wash is, your wastage policy, your food safety policy, your fumigation policy, apart from the standard operating procedures that should also be in place, you also need to look at HACCP, hazard analysis critical control points. You have to draft, you have to document that the process is HACCP compliant, even up to your vendors, your suppliers. You have to check their facilities, you have to inspect, you have to ensure that they also comply. You need to see their level of compliance in terms of, okay, training their team, giving them orientation, and exposing them to knowledge about food handling and safety. You have to check so that you are sure what you are receiving is also guaranteed, and you are passing a guaranteed item to your customer. So your thermometers, either your infrared or tell-through thermometer, must be available for you to check your audit review. Your QA department or your quality control team, they should be checking, they should audit your facility from time to time, especially your production and your restaurant if you are in the restaurant and business. they must constantly do this. It could be monthly spot checking, which extends to quarterly audit review with reports given to all concerned, all the actors, and action plan is done around that. Then follow up to ensure that yes, the delivery is done. Then you also look at your food holding equipment, your freezers, your bin marie, your hot cupboards, and what have you. They all must be in order. So as long as this is done, as long as this is put in place, then you can be rest assured that yes, you are upholding the 5 keys to safer food. Yes. So and that's how far we would go for today.